All right, cool. So then we have Ariel, like I mentioned, she's down in Orlando. She's a registered nurse at a hospital. And quick disclaimer, she is not going to be here speaking for her employer. We're not even going to tell you who that is, but she's not here speaking for anybody but herself. And she will tell you what her experience has been down in the hospitals down there. But that's what it is. It's her experience. So following her, we have James Cowan, who is the founder of a teledoctor company, Docity, and he's also the VP of Business Development currently for Choice Home Warranty, which is where we have our connection for real estate here. And then he corrected me on this title, but this was from your Facebook page, James. It's chemical biologist, radiological and nuclear defense specialist with the United States Marines. He's also in Orlando. Correct me on that title, James. What did you want that to really say?
Well, actually, it's chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear defense. That was my MOS.
Biological. So I have biologist, and that was so.
That's far too complimentary of my skill set.
I copied your page. Maybe I did it wrong, but all right. So you know stuff about chemistry, radiology, and nuclear energy, I'm guessing. So
yeah, sure.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
We're gonna find out tonight.
I have you on here for the first two, and then I saw that on Facebook. It was like, oh yeah, let me put this military experience in there. And I saw that, and I was like, didn't even know all that. So this dude is smarter than I thought.
Okay, thanks. I'll take it.
That is a compliment. That is a compliment. All right, so we will go back to the screen here. We can see us all, and we are obviously this show is designed for real estate and finance talk, but right now there's a little bit of other important stuff that we've been dealing with. We've been connecting it to real estate somewhat, but we want to get some different perspectives from across the country. And today we're dealing with some folks from Florida, as I mentioned. So let's start with Ariel. Tell us about what your role is currently at the hospital, like what you do specifically there.
So for my particular unit, I'm actually in a management role, but we're still clinical managers. So we still function as a charge RN role to the unit, at least 3 of our shifts a week. Being charged means, you manage the flow of patients, you assist the nurses on the unit, you help with scheduling. It's clinical because you're still able to take patients if necessary, as well as help the other nurses with patients.
Okay. So you said you're in somewhat of an admin role that you kind of direct everybody as to what they're supposed to do. So they come to you with problems quite a bit?
Yeah. So the full title is like clinical assistant nurse manager, but the clinical portion is to specify that, should the census be high in the hospital, I can still take patients. I still help with patients. But the, assistant nurse manager role is the fact that while I'm charge role these shifts, I'm still the manager outside of that on the night shift. So, that's pretty much what I do. Like, I still do everything that a bedside nurse can do, just in the charge role that I function in, I'm more of assisting.
Okay. All right, cool. James, what is your current role with Docity? I know you I'll let you tell what your status is with them.
Yeah, so Docity is a telemedicine company that I started back in 2016. We have a online HIPAA compliant platform that allows patients and providers to communicate face-to-face through a smartphone, tablet, or computer. We serve 2 distinct populations. The one that I'll probably talk about the most tonight is just, as you might imagine, clinics who are trying to connect with their patients and extend the clinic to the couch and the exam room to the living room.
Okay, so how many competitors are in that space?
180, give or take.
Is that for real? Or?
No, there's a lot. There are a lot of telemedicine companies. Each of them tend to have different specialties or, sort of modes of operation that they use to differentiate themselves. There are certainly, I'd say 3 or 4 who are the largest competitors in the space, one of whom is publicly traded. And a lot of them work through insurance companies. Our model is a little bit different than that. So, but there are a lot of telemedicine companies.
The insurance company being involved with the goal of keeping the expenses down for themselves, basically? Is that why they push telemedicine?
there's a number of reasons why telemedicine was, becoming popular prior to COVID-19, but among them are the lower cost to serve. That's from the insurance's perspective. That's certainly a big motivator. Another motivating factor goes to the hospitals, right? So anything that comes through a telemedicine platform that prevents a patient from overcrowding an emergency room, or going to some type of an urgent care center that has a higher cost associated with it, is obviously going to benefit both the insurance and also the physicians and nurses who are having to deal with that workflow.
And
I can add in something here.
yes, please.
We were actually using, because prior to what the role I function in now, I worked in more of a progressive care setting. We used to use telemedicine a lot to consult psychologists and psychiatrists for our patients. Anyone that came in as a Baker Act, Marchman Act, anything that's kind of like a legal mandated stay in the hospital for care, we needed a psychiatrist to see them by law before 72 hours the hold is up. So a lot of our psych doctors there was no way they could physically come and see every single patient within an area for a Baker Act. So we started doing a lot of telemedicine with them, and they would, converse with the patient, view the tele screen, and make an assessment, and that way they could see that patient before that hold is over.
Yeah, telepsychiatry and behavioral health are huge areas of opportunity for what we do, because unlike other modes of care, you don't have to feel a patient or have a doctor, check inside of an ear to be able to serve that patient.
Yeah, and they also make good use of whatever physician does their first assessment on the patient. So, how they look, they don't need to listen to heart sounds or anything, but how they're presenting, how their speech is, they can hear all that through a screen. So it's very useful.
Well, you said you don't need to listen to a heart, but James, is that kind of thing coming where there's something that hooks to your computer with a USB that you could do your heart, all that stuff, that you could make it more like you're with the doctor?
It's not coming, it's here. It's just a matter of adoption. So as an example, I'll give you two examples. So in our first ever program with an internet service provider offering telemedicine as a subscription, Chattanooga EPB asked us to do some complicated networking, and to really test how much bandwidth you could take up doing telemedicine on a gig internet connection. So what we did was we built out an integration for a USB-based digital otoscope that typically would get used in an ear, nose, or throat. We always like to use the example of an ear. So what we could do is we can connect the patient with the provider. They can be talking just like you and I are, but then the patient can plug in that USB device into the side of their computer and toggle to the view of that. We can continue talking, but you would see the inside of my ear and be able to have me move it up and down and around. There's also stethoscopes that already work with platforms like ours. ECO is a really good one that we've had good experience with, EKO. We have an HIV and infectious disease network in Tennessee, East Tennessee, called Choice Health Network, that uses our platform. And they have a lot of those devices like dermoscopes, the Echo, and the otoscope and things like that. So it's here, but it's really not something
cool.
to typically keep underneath your, you're not going to have an otoscope underneath your counter in your bathroom. So
Right. So
unless you're me.
Right.
yeah, unless you're Ariel. Yeah.
If you're Ariel, you think this is sweet, I got to get me one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm super nerdy about it.
Yeah. So that's cool. So tell me about, James, how this has affected that business. COVID-19, obviously the easy answer is our usage is up, but give us some information on that.
Yeah. So we've seen platform growth in terms of our patient load go over double. So previously across the practices that we had, there were a few thousand patients. It's up over 7,000 in just a few weeks. We've got active usership has grown. By active user, I mean people who are using the platform on a regular basis has gone up by about 30%. We've had a bunch of providers join, and really I think it's not so much about the impact that it's had on our platform, because our platform scales based on how much server space and processing power we have. So that part's easy. What's been interesting is that all of our clinics that are brick and mortar locations, Ariel, you'll find this really fascinating, and you've probably seen it, but they've completely shut down their physical locations, and they're doing all of their care through the platform, including in the mental health services, traditional primary care, case management services for people with HIV, referrals, you name it. It's all happening on the platform. I think we're learning daily that there's so much that we do that requires us to get in a car and drive somewhere that we don't really need to be doing.
Well, that goes back to Ariel. Ariel, how do you see COVID-19 forcing the medical industry to change practices? I shouldn't say how do you see it forcing. We know it's forcing them. How do you see those changes being adopted after we don't have to have them? But hey, it's more efficient, it's more convenient, it's more, the list goes on.
Ooh, that's a tough one because, I mean, what normally happens when a hospital expects an influx of patients, so like a overuse of the resources, and we've been hearing about it for weeks, like, oh, it's going to burn your resources, it's going to burn this, it's going to do that. The first thing we usually do is cut out non-essential things. So you've seen a lot of hospitals cancel non-elective or elective surgeries. You've seen them increase their turnaround for discharges. So in my area, we typically have patients up to 2 days or 3 days, which is pretty quick for most hospital settings. Those are now going from 1 day, 24 hours, to 48 hours for those patients. So we really have been working to create space for potential COVID-19 patients. Not just in my area, but you're starting to see in other areas in the country, like units created for specific COVID-19 patients as well. What I foresee is, I know a lot of the workforce, even for healthcare workers that are not in a space to provide direct care to COVID-19 patients, a lot of them are getting canceled. A lot of them are getting flexed out and having a hard time keeping their hours because nobody wants to come to the hospital now for something routine. So there was a lot of confusion at
Botox
first.
injection is not going to happen for a
No,
while.
no. Like that clinic is going to say, stay home, keep your Botox for later.
Yeah.
And my concern is when people actually have serious things, they still need to come. You still need to come for chest pain. You still need to come for pain that you can't describe or something like not being able to breathe. But I just foresee that for a while, the cost and resource will really start to edge out because at least for my hospital in particular, they're very transparent and they're actually letting us know how much money we're losing every day. Because they want us to know hey, we're dedicated to help those workers, we're dedicated to helping these patients, but we need you to know that we lost $2 million today. And so it's very it's still a business at the end of the day.
Yeah. And then the company that my office, Epic Mortgage, is a division of a bigger company, and the same thing there, where we're being told, hey, we love to do all those clients that have a credit score that we could do all day long before. Maybe a 619 credit score, but now no one on the secondary market is buying those loans. So if you want us to have no money to do anything after a certain amount of, because we could take and do somebody's loan with a 720 credit score, we turn around, we sell that loan within a month, now we got the money freed up to do another loan, is a simple way to explain it. Same thing, hey, we're going to tie all this money up in the low credit score borrowers, no one's buying that. And beyond that, our lines of credit, which give us the money to lend on short-term basis like that, right. They're like, oh, don't you take any of the money off of your line of credit with us and go sell loans that are at a 600 credit score. So they're very transparent, telling us exactly how it's working, just like you said, because all of us businesses have to stay in business, and a hospital is no different.
Yeah, and it's definitely getting tricky. I mean, I definitely wouldn't want to be making those decisions at the very top because they're trying to do their best to make sure the workers are safe with the resources we have, but they're also trying to support the community, and they're also trying to stay in business. We've made some changes. You'll see a lot of hospitals in the area, they don't allow visitors anymore. Some will allow one visitor or two visitors. It depends on the specialty you're in, but most hospitals are like no visitors. Well, if you think about it, when visitors are there, not only are they comforting the patient, they're also buying things in the hospital. So that's where a lot of their money is being lost too, I would assume, as well as the fact that just like the patients are lonely. So, I mean, as a healthcare worker though, it's been somewhat nice having less visitors because we're able to provide care just to the patient without some of the big groups or extra hands in the pot. But at the end of the day,
Extra
you still
cheese,
want to do
extra cheese.
extra cheese.
I'm sure
We need more chefs in the kitchen.
you've had people
No more
question
chefs.
you question what you're saying we have to do, and that person's not even the patient. Like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh, this is a normal thing for nurses. We have to deal with the family nurses and the family doctors, I should say. I don't know. To answer the question as a whole, I don't know what kind of healthcare scape we're looking at after this, but I know we just got to get through it.
Right.
Mhm.
And to correlate with what you said, with the visitors in the room that are, wanting to be explained stuff and have their input. In real estate, we have parents where
Mm.
the first time home buyers look at a house and they want to write an offer, and they, well, before we do that, we have to bring our parents in. And we have to
Oh, so you already know.
oh yeah, it's like,
I got lucky.
this is not the house for you. And 20 houses later, they finally find one, that the parents are
Yeah.
okay with. So
Yeah.
speaking of real estate, James, how is the other business that you're involved with doing with the home warranty? I imagine it's hard for a homeowner like Ariel or myself. If we had a home warranty, we have a leak, and I've used a home warranty before, where I had a hot water heater go bad. I had another one where there was water under the house, and we didn't know where it was coming from. So they sent out this guy, and I felt bad for him because it was a crawl space. So it's this window like this, and this was a big fella, and somehow he got himself under there and fixed this pipe, and it cost us the deductible of the home warranty. So that was great. But how are those issues being handled now with a lot of that stuff? You have providers that don't want to go into the house, customers that don't really want someone coming into their house, but there's an issue there, and they call you guys
Yeah.
and
So
say we have a claim. What happens?
yeah. So I mean, from the home warranty perspective, any home warranty company that is worth their salt is gonna be taking steps to make sure that people continue to be taken care of in times like this. It's difficult because you're dealing with. I had a contractor who was supposed to come over today, and I canceled the appointment because I was uncomfortable. I didn't know the person. I don't know who they've been around, but I do know that they've been in and out of home after home after home. But any home warranty company that wants to take care of their customers should be, and I know Choice Home Warranty did this, loosening underwriting restrictions, enhancing their coverages, working with people who have warranties to be able to keep them if they're having payment issues. So giving them forgiveness for a month, extending grace periods to payments on those policies if they're being paid month to month on a direct-to-consumer basis. But really, in addition to that, what's happening is there are more people in the house for more hours of the day. So claims rates are going up. People's houses are breaking more. And over time, that's going to put a crunch. There's a really interesting thing that's going to happen over the next few months, and that is that businesses that are struggling during this time hopefully will come out of it and see their business increase again. I think you will probably do loans for people with 620s,
Yes, for sure.
9 months from now. But there are some businesses that the cash flow issues that are coming are three or 4 months down the road. And I think warranties are one of those, because you can only pay out on somebody's policy for so long before you either have to stop paying claims or increase prices. And that, I'm speaking just for my, that's James's opinion. That's not any representation of any company, but that's coming. So if you've got a home warranty and your house breaks, don't be afraid to use it. If you get a sense that your company's trying to cheat you and not pay your claim because they're getting too many calls, might be time to switch. So
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now with you two here and my knowledge of, well, especially Ariel, friends on Facebook, and a couple, well, it's one particular group where we talk a lot about the topics of the day. We keep it non-hostile, which is good. Which you don't
Try.
which you don't see on Facebook all the time. I think Facebook is like, even though we're on Facebook right now, Facebook is it's an open forum for people to behave badly quite a bit. So, but I appreciate the group that I'm in with you. We tend to not do that too much. People might get a little heated, but generally it's good. So I know some of the things that you read and look at and what you think and vice versa. And I know what James's experience. So I want to talk about maybe a little bit of controversy here. You were talking before we got on about the medical communities, basically their take on the Hydra. What do you call it again? You said you call it Hydra, right? Hydra
Hydroxychloroquine.
Hydroxy. I was gonna say Hydra is the bad guys on the Avengers. So
Marvel.
So yes.
What's funny is that I started saying hydroxycut.
Yeah, I was saying chloroquine, and you're like, just say hydroxy. And so now I'm even worse.
Yeah, no, it's like there's too many bad ones close to it. Chloroform will kill you. Chloroquine is fish cleaner.
Right. Yes, I've heard of people that people were taking that.
Yes.
Like, oh, this is the same thing. No, bad science. Not the same.
I didn't think that was a real story. I was like, that can't be real, but totally real. Husband and wife thought it was a miracle because they heard one press conference and they drank a tablespoon of fish cleaner, which has chloroquine in it, but it's a different type of agent. And the husband like died within 20 minutes.
Oh my word.
You know that thing on the bottle that says poison? That usually means don't.
I don't understand. I can't blame anybody.
Oh, I think we might have lost.
That's just a.
Well, as far as there's been no clinical trials on that drugs. James, do you want to speak to what you hear in your circles with Docity, etc. As far as like, I hear it's anecdotal, but then I hear a guy in California gives it to all his patients, and they're all doing amazing, and so it's back and forth.
I don't. I'm. In all honesty, I would love to hypothesize on that, but I just won't. And the reason is I've heard the same thing you've heard. I've heard that somebody in Sweden came up with a cure. I've heard that someone in California had it, came up with something. There Rutgers, there was a lab in Rutgers that had, some kind of a cure. I don't know. I do get the sense from what I hear that we're close on a couple of things. First is the ability to detect if someone has the antibodies against the virus, meaning that they had it and they beat it, and so they're no longer at risk of transmitting or getting it again. And the other is, of course, the vaccine against this virus. I think those are probably close to being ready to go into clinical trials, but that process is lengthy. They're going to shorten it. I know the FDA is going to fast track those, but they're going to also want to make sure that they do it in a very safe way, because there's going to be a rush on those products.
Sure.
I can tell you there's another thing that I've seen. There's two things that have been really interesting from the telemedicine perspective. One is the FCC actually just released $200 million. It was part of the CARES Act for in particular rural healthcare organizations to purchase and install telemedicine programs to combat COVID-19. So what you're going to see is a even more rapid proliferation of telehealth technology to combat the spread in rural communities, who are kind of just now starting to see the effects of that. But if you get an outbreak in an area like Montana, if you think things are bad in the bigger cities like Orlando in terms of tasking and resourcing, those folks aren't even anywhere near to close to being able to do it. The other thing I've seen, we've got a friend called My Lab Box. It's a startup based out in the LA area. We were speaking with them over the last couple of days. They've actually developed a home test for COVID. So people will be able to go online and purchase home tests the same way you can, purchase a DNA test or some other test and do it at home.
So yes, we see that.
There she is. Welcome back, Ariel.
Well, James, do you see, and Ariel, you can comment on this too. What do you think the reaction of the American people will be if there is a vaccine, and I don't know if they would force everyone to take it, but it would be, I'm sure they'll be pretty strong in that push. There's the controversy we're talking about, Ariel. Some of it.
I'll go whenever you're done, James.
Oh, okay. So I'll go out on a limb here and say that the COVID-19 or the coronavirus vaccine does not cause autism. But I would hope, I would hope that I would hope the American people would respond by signing up, and provided that the FDA is convinced at the efficacy of the vaccine. I think we've seen that vaccines work, and that they, that in particular this thing, which is killing thousands upon thousands of people, if you can prevent that happening, you really should look into it. So I hope the American people will thoughtfully consider getting that vaccine when it becomes available, if they're a good candidate for it. And I hope they don't overwhelm the offices and the pharmacies that are giving it out the same way they've overwhelmed the manufacturers of toilet paper.
There was no zinc. There was no zinc at Kroger today. I will tell you that there was no zinc at Kroger. Ariel, you speak to that same thing, but also to the idea that maybe the test that shows if you had it or not, if that's proven that you probably can't get it again, those folks could either be in the back of the line who've had it, or they could just not get the shot at all.
I think it would be a logistical nightmare, honestly, to figure out who had it. And then it would be like a lawsuit at some point, like, well, just because I've had it doesn't mean I can't get it again, because it's not proven yet that you can't get it again. In fact, they are concerned that once we do peak in these numbers and we start hitting the fall, that we could see a resurgence again, because they're seeing COVID as like a seasonal flu. So can you just imagine, after going through this for these months, now we're able to go out again, and then next year in the hotter months again, we're back on lockdown because COVID's back out to play. So
yes.
There's still a lot.
There's no March Madness ever again, James.
I know. There's no Mardi Gras.
I'm not going to handle that. Nope.
Yeah, I don't know how we're going to not have Cinco de Mayo for another year.
High school baseball.
Yeah. My birthday is May 2nd, Ariel, so I need.
Bless.
This is really killing me.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get married October 10th, so I'm just hoping that it's okay by then. But as far as the vaccine, on this angle, it is depressing, the amount of education I have to do about vaccines and if they're good, if they're bad, if they're needed. I think if they come out with a COVID vaccine, you're going to see the entire anti-vax crowd go up in arms. They're going to treat it like it's bad for you and we're trying to be poisoned. I mean, people think 5G towers are causing COVID. Like, there is no ceiling in my head that I get to when it comes to how people respond to medicine. So I don't think medicine is God. I don't think we don't make mistakes. But I think proven things that have been shown should be enough. It's not.
Yeah, but
so
I
think
saw
that vaccine is available. You're going to see this.
Go ahead.
No, I think you're going to see the same response to the flu vaccine. I mean, how many times a year do we say, okay, the flu vaccine is not guaranteed to say you won't get the flu, but it's giving you immunity to certain strands of the virus. COVID-19, if we get a vaccine, it would probably be around the same logic. So people will still not take it. And then they'll get sick.
But the truth is, the 5G towers are causing this. And then when you get the shot, it's going to have a radio chip in it. And
that's right. I heard that part.
You will be I mean, from afar. I don't know if Trump's in on that or if it's just Pelosi, but someone will control you.
Exactly. Yeah. Or it's all been a mass experiment in order for you to get the vaccine, which will put the tracker in you, and now you're screwed. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, the only group that I never underestimate just how stupid people can be. But the only group that I refuse to underestimate even more than that is just how dumb our elected officials can be when it comes to these types of things. So I have no doubt that if there's an opportunity for someone to exert undue authority over our lives, they will take that chance. And you know, I think we should be, I want to be careful that, you know, it's okay to be skeptical.
Exactly.
And to want to be, it's okay to be skeptical if your desire is to be educated.
Yes.
If your desire is to be skeptical just so you can be obstinate or ignorant, that's not okay.
Yeah, like let's have a conversation, right? You know,
Yeah.
Show me your peer-reviewed article, show me your scientific research. Don't just give me you're being controlled by the masses. Like, okay, who are the masses? Like, I just need more than what it seems to be lately, which is just that, oh, just trust me, I know things because of Facebook. No.
Yeah, some of those conspiracies, it's a rabbit hole you can keep going down. But if you think about it, some of those things would be so hard to pull off because so many people would have to keep their mouth shut. I can't even tell people in my family certain things without them sharing it with somebody else. Like, how do you expect someone to keep such a big secret? But I guess that's then when they get, you know, like when they're in jail,
of course,
they get suicide.
Yeah, but my thing is, typically there has to be a motive, right? What's your motive in all this? And so when I hear people say things like, oh, COVID was manufactured, I'm like, okay, so even if it's controlled from a billionaire's perspective, what is the motive to lose so much money from that standpoint? You know, if it's someone at the end pulling puppet strings and they're making so much money off the world by being in the dark and being the puppet master, what's the motive in killing everybody and not getting the money back? I mean, I could go for days, but I totally understand.
Thanos just wanted to thin out the population. So that's what I also hear Bill Gates wanted to do, is survival of the fittest, thin it out. You know, he's old, so I don't know how long he thinks.
I mean, he's kind of in the category, so that seems like a lose-lose situation.
Right. What are your thoughts, James?
I don't know. I don't think I'm not sure Thanos is real. I hope there's no kids watching. But
they got to get a life if the kids are watching this. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I know they're real bored.
Well, my kids are. I told them I'm going on CNN. So the expectations are very high for Dad right now. No, you know, the other thing is, Ariel, you raised the point about the flu vaccine. It does, you know, it protects against certain strands. It can't protect against all of the continuously mutating strands. And you know, that's a point, an opportunity to educate yourself when you talk with your doctor, not with your Facebook crowd. But we don't have any way of measuring, you know, if there's 100 million people who get the flu shot, we don't have any way to measure if the people who did get the flu, if that was prevented by the fact that they got the flu shot. So I can't pull those numbers out and when somebody says, oh, well, I got the shot and I still got the flu. I can't say, yes, well, 67 million people didn't get the flu because they had the flu shot and they were protected from
exactly.
So
the goal is always, when it comes to vaccination, outside of trying to eventually obliterate some type of ailment, is herd immunity.
Yeah.
Vaccines are made to create herd immunity, meaning if you have if you have more people that are immunized against something and have vaccinations, they won't be sick. And the people who cannot get vaccinations because of a low immune system or they're not of age, we're talking about our babies and kids who can't get certain vaccines yet. If they're being exposed to more immunized people via vaccine than those without vaccines who are petri dishes, that's what I call people who are not vaccinated, petri dishes. You know, the idea is that, yeah, you can use that. It's free. You can use it. The idea is if they're coming in contact with people that are vaccinated, they won't be catching those illnesses. So COVID-19, if there's a vaccine, it would be the same way. It won't prevent you from getting it, just like a flu shot won't prevent you from getting the flu, but hopefully it can build an immunity in you that if you do get it, you fight it, or you could be immunized against that strain, because there are proven to be multiple strains of COVID-19 in case you wanted more things to worry about.
Awesome.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
My melatonin for tonight. Um,
Yeah.
Jeff,
so
Jeff, I heard an interesting comment from somebody that I think this kind of goes to the social distancing, and the 6 feet and all that stuff. Somebody said, I don't know if it was Facebook or whatever, but they said, if the roles were reversed and you were at risk and they asked your grandparents to stay inside for a few weeks, they wouldn't even hesitate. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I do think that I thought of this while Ariel was talking about herd immunity. I think the difficult thing for me, and individually with 5 kids, is just it's very hard to make the decision to stay inside.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that took some time for us to come around to what that looks like. What kinds of activities can we do? We bought a bunch of board games.
Yeah, everybody's gotten super creative now.
Yeah, so it's just been it's a really interesting time, and I think we're going to come out of the other end of this with a lot of new perceptions of what we want our reality to be.
right,
I agree.
I agree, and I will probably have people on in the future who have different viewpoints on some of these things, and if they know their stuff, maybe we'll bring you guys back. We'll have a big old group discussion. But I mean, there's a guy who was the head of infectious disease studies at a university. I can't remember. He's German, but it was an American university, and he talks about letting us get herd immunity through letting the virus out and putting the people who are at risk, putting them on, on a house, or not a house arrest, but you know what I mean, what we're all dealing with. And he makes some good points too. He's a doctor, I'm not. So
sure.
I mean, it's what my mom said. Oh, so-and-so's got chicken pox. I'm going to run my kid to their house, play date, get some chicken pox. So,
I think that's going to be so much harder to get people on board with, like, hey, you want to go get sick? Let's go.
Right. Well, what we talked about the other day, Ariel, the goose is cooked. They did the social distancing. So whether that's the best or not, that's what we did. So it'd probably be worse to have a group of people that refuse to do that. And we're seeing some that are just knuckleheaded and they are kind of refusing to do that. But it's worse to have us not go all the way one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're a social distance. Let's all do it and get it over with.
Yeah.
If we're not, then let's not.
I got to head off, guys. I'm sorry.
I appreciate it. Ariel, thanks for coming on. We'll have you on again, I'm sure. James, any final thoughts? We'll say goodbye to Ariel.
Ariel, it was a pleasure to meet you. I hope I can meet you in person. Yeah.
I'm going to probably look into your Docity thing there. I like it.
Yes, go ahead. Docity.com.
I want a shirt.
All right. I got an extra one for you. I'll make it happen.
I sold James a hat. It's in my office, James.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Hey, Ariel. Jeff, you asked for last thoughts.
Sure.
I think, the fact that there are a lot of other people with different viewpoints, like I said before, we should welcome the discussion as long as it's, a discussion and not a shouting match. You're right that people hide behind social media. They think they can say whatever they want without any fear of reprisal. And those are Facebook warriors. They're not actual warriors. So, but we don't know what we don't know about COVID-19. And so we need to just listen and learn and then make educated decisions for ourselves and our families. And, I think you should have people on who have different opinions than what she and I had. But I appreciate the chance to see your beautiful face and all of those participation trophies behind you.
Those are bobbleheads, man.
I know. I'm just messing.
Back in the day when the Red Wings had real hockey going on down in Detroit, what we haven't seen lately.
At the Joe instead of that gargantuan travesty of the Little Caesars Arena.
Well, let me just say about Little Caesars, I wanted to make this mention. Little Caesars will be donating over 1 million pizzas countrywide. They're starting in Detroit, it looks like. So if you're medical or a first responder, thanks for the segue, James. It really did trigger it in my mind. If you're medical personnel or first responder, then I'm not sure exactly yet how to sign up, but you can get a pizza from them. The same thing is going on for like a week at Big B Coffee, which is a Midwest, mostly Michigan, as far as I know, coffee place. So first responders, medical staff have their ID, go into Big B Coffee, and you can get a free coffee. The Detroit Free Press carried that story. So if you want particular details, go there, or I'm sure they're on their website. And James, when they announced the name of the arena being Little Caesars Arena, I vomited in my mouth a little bit. I was like, come on.
Yeah.
You know, something, it's almost like when Ohio State used to have values, and maybe they still do Value City arenas with their college basketball team played in. Value
Really?
City Arena. Yeah. So, but, you know, I did have one further question for you because of your military background. It had to do with chemicals and all that stuff. Did you ever entertain the idea that perhaps, as Ariel said, it's man-made? Now, they obviously, there are a lot of diseases that are being studied in labs, and they're manipulating them to say, hey, I can't remember the word for that, but if there was to be manipulation that happened, or not a manipulation, but a natural change that occurred, can we manipulate that and create the same thing and see how we could treat it if it happens? And then, of course, like at every movie that is out with the outbreak, it could be something that just, oops, someone carried it out of that place, or it escaped in an animal, or some other form. What we're told happened with COVID is the wet markets with the animals and the meat all mixing together, which has happened multiple times, has been the explanation. So I feel like we should probably, like the country, the regime in China should probably have to pay some way for some of this worldwide problem. But have you entertained the thought that perhaps that was something they were studying as a chemical weapon that got out?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm going to make a couple comments. One is, I know quite a few epidemiologists. If they say that it originated in a market and they've traced it back, you know, patient zero, if you will, to that, I trust them, because for the most part, while they're really cool people, they're not that exciting. So they don't really have a reason to lie to me.
Hey, Lawrence Fishburne was pretty exciting in Contagion. So
yeah, that's true.
I think all these guys are like that. They're not.
Yeah, 28 Days Later was one of my favorites. I really enjoyed that one. But I will say this, the spread of it is certainly man-made. China had a chance to squash this thing at the very beginning, and they didn't act, or they acted inadequately. I don't see much evidence that indicates that that's not true. As to your question about whether or not this could have been created in a lab as a biological weapon, it absolutely could have. I can't say 100% that it wasn't. I don't think it was, but it could have. And, you know, one of the things that from a national security perspective, we're going to have to start thinking about, as I put all the kids to a restful sleep with this, is that creating biological weapons is something that anyone can do. They can, you know, we have the ability to craft biological weapons specifically targeted at certain types of DNA. So that is something that can be done. This is, I don't think that this is an instance of that. I do think that it spread because of inaction on the part of government officials starting in China. But yeah, you're right. Biological weapons are a real thing, and we have to be on the lookout for it.
All right, sir. Thank you very much for your time. You want to give us your what is it? Docity.com.
Yep, Docity.com.
Okay, and then you got Choice Home Warranty for home warranty needs. Are they taking new signups?
Yeah, there's if someone's looking for a home warranty, ChoiceHomeWarranty.com is a great company to get a warranty. You can pay month to month. You don't have to pay all of it like you do when you buy a house. So highly recommend that. And if you're a hospital or a doctor or someone who interfaces with patients and you need a telemedicine software.
All right. Of course, if you need a mortgage, you know, right here. But I appreciate your time, James. I'll probably mention an opportunity again to you in the future. So be ready to come on again. And you have a good night and keep those 5 kids safe. And I'll do the same with my 5. We're in that weird club where we're looked at as insane people for having 5 kids, but it's fun.
We are. Yep. Stand by for your invite to the mock draft too.
All right, sir. Thank you very much.
All right. Good night.
Talk to you later.